What's up, guys? Papi here. Sorry I have not came out with a video in a while, so this is going to be a kind of a two-parter. This is going to be an introductory series. It's going to be called Papi Rants. If you follow me on Instagram, you know that I like to rant a lot. I rant about vaccines, the Ukraine war, about the government. I like to do rants. I like to learn, and I like to talk about the things I learn. And so I want to start a new series here on my channel. Technically, I probably should just start a new channel, but I don't want to do all that. That's a lot of work. It's hard enough doing one, let alone two. Technically, it would be three. I just don't have the time for that to be messing around with multiple channels. Got a full time job, baby on the way, wife, uh, family, friends. It's a lot. It's a lot, and I want an outlet for my creativity and my rants too. So I figured my creativity and rants can all be in the same channel, and I do plan on bringing on a second guest on Papi Rants. It's not going to be Rich from the Rich and Nas podcast. But before I get into which this episode actually is going to be a Papi Rants episode, I want to talk a little bit about the update on the Steam Deck backplate. The Mark V was great. It worked perfectly, perfectly. So much so that I updated. And if you saw on the community page, you've seen a quick pic of the Mark VI, and it looks pretty dang good. Um, that has a full video. I've actually filmed it twice. And we actually did some thermal probe tests. I'm going to just give you some quick numbers. A stock backplate versus the Mark 6 backplate is a lot cooler in the SSD IC chip area. It's cooler by 12 degrees, meaning the Mark 6 backplate is 12 degrees warmer, and that has a lot to do to the fact that there is no ventilation hole, and it has been moved to where the fan is on the stock backplate. Um, Temperatures only peaked at 69 degrees from my testing, which means it's still well within safe temperatures. And 69 degrees after about 15 to 20 minutes of gameplay with an overclocked Steam Deck to 22 watt TDP, 4000 on the CPU, and 2200 on the GPU. Very cool running, in my opinion, works great. But as I was editing the video for the second time, and actually we have another video on the way, it's a PC build video. But that's a different story. We're not going to talk about that. We're going to be talking about the Mark 6. We skipped the Mark 6 because every time I edit it, I made changes. I couldn't help myself. I've changed it. I've changed it. I've changed it. I have the first mock up here of the Mark 6. I'm going to show, oops, sorry, Mark 7. I'm going to show it to you right now. And it looks pretty dang good. It's pretty glossy. I used a Sunlu PETG. The print came out pretty good. We don't have the rear buttons attached. This is just a mock-up print. So you see this, it looks, you'll notice that where does it say? It says Mark 7. This is the Mark 7. We straight up skipped the Mark 6. We went straight to the Mark 7. I have not done the thermal probe testing yet on this one, but I'm sure it is going to be close to what a stock Steam Deck looks like in that SSD IC chip area, just because we have ventilation. I don't know why that came out there. And also the external fan is going to be blowing air into that area as well. And if we want, we can even put another heatsink there, which would actually help out quite a bit. We'll probably do that on a later video. We're just going to go ahead and probably, hopefully, in the next couple days, I'll have that Mark 7 video already to go. It's going to be definitely the best cooling Steam Deck we have by far. But back to the main topic of this video. So this video is going to be the very first episode of Papi Rants. I think I'm gonna make it a podcast. I always wanted to do. I listen to a lot of podcasts. I commute almost 2.5 to sometimes 3 hours in one day, so it's a lot of time to consume content. And I love podcasts and books on tape because found time. You have a lot of time when you're in traffic or you're stuck in the commute. So Gives me a lot of time to think, gives me a lot of time to formulate ideas. And like I said earlier, if you follow me on Instagram, you know your boy tends to rant. I rant a lot. And before I get into the whole ranting series, I feel like what would be fair is for you guys to kind of understand my background a little bit and where I'm coming from and who I am. That way you can kind of understand a little bit how I can formulate these ideas, and my viewpoints and stuff. And I think that's very fair. And I'm going to share some stuff that are pretty personal things. And, you know, I feel very comfortable sharing it. And hopefully, some of the stories I do talk about and, can relate to a lot of people and maybe potentially help a lot of people. Because, life is hard and it's a struggle, and then you die. And I think that's my number one creeds. Life's a struggle, and then you die. So let's have some fun. So getting into the first episode of Papi Rants. Now that we got all the other stuff out of the way, let's just start off by my birth. Let's start off day one. I was born here in California. Yeah, I pretty much live within 15 miles of where I was born. So I've been in this area quite a long time. I'm the next city over from where I was raised. That's where I live now, and I'm not too far. Too far from home. My both my parents are immigrants, but my mom came out here pretty much single. My dad left when I was around 3 or 4. He had another family, and he left. It's probably my oldest memory. My dad leaving. Just remember him like getting me dressed after. It's like this is if I were to go back in time and think about the oldest memory I have, it was the day my dad left. He was changing me. He just gave me a bath, and I noticed he had suitcase packed, and I was like, "Where are you going, Dad?" And he goes, "Somewhere over the rainbow." And then snapshot into finding my mom in the closet crying, just like waterfalls coming down both her eyes, and while she's clutching my younger brother, he is my full brother, and me just walking up to her and just hugging her, and then not knowing what to do. That's my oldest memory. So I had a single mom for a long time until I was about 14, almost 13, 14. And then, but overall, I had a pretty, good childhood, in my opinion. I wouldn't change it for anything. Grew up with my younger brother. We fought a lot. We were very competitive. And the older I grow, I realize we were very competitive because we're probably fighting for our mother's attention a lot. Now that I think about it, being now a 36-year-old man, we're probably competing a lot for attention because our mom worked 2 jobs and she went to school at the same time. So, when mom was home, it was like who could get the attention. And unfortunately, when you're a kid, you tend to do bad things to get attention. My brother was better at doing bad things than me. So he got a lot more attention, and not the good kind of attention. My attention was more or less like I liked to do pranks on my mom. I used to just mess with her all the time. And like she'd be on the phone and she'd be talking to a friend and she'd be laughing, and I used to sit next to her and start laughing like I was part of the conversation. She hated that. She hated it. She hated it. But it was just those were the little things that you did to, just to let mom notice you. And it's not that she didn't notice, and it's not that my mother wasn't a good mom. She was just busy. She's just busy, man. She had 2 kids to take care of by herself. Luckily, my grandmother had come to America. I don't know if I mentioned that. So they're both from the Philippines. I'm Filipino, hence the Filipino sun on my neck. Filipino Chinese in descendant. My grandmother was apparently half Chinese. My mom was a quarter, so that makes me an eighth Chinese. And my dad, my biological father, was Filipino and Polynesian. So Hawaiian, but Filipino Hawaiian, pretty much the same thing. So, um, But yeah, so she was alone, no significant other, for a long time, for about 10, 12 years until she met my stepfather. But I did grow up with my grandmother, helped raising me, and I had a lot of cousins. Growing up was we weren't poor in a sense that we didn't have any food or clothing. We had all of that, and I never went hungry, which, thank you, mom and everyone, because I never went hungry. And it's a lot. A lot of people go hungry. Even in America. Um, we grew up with about eight or nine of us, nine of us, including me and my brother. So there's seven cousins growing up, and then it was like another another two families. So we were my family. So it was my mom, her sister, and her sister's husband, and her other sister and her husband, and then their kids, and then my grandmother. And then at one point, it was my other two cousins, but I never saw my uncle. So there was a bunch of us kids in like a two-bedroom apartment for a couple years. And then we finally were able to afford to rent a house. So there was a lot of us at one time. I didn't have my own bed. I shared a bed with my mom till I think I was about almost 10 years old when no, I was probably like, no, I was probably around 8 or 9. And I shared a bed with my mom until I was like 8 or 9, because we didn't have anywhere else to sleep. It was either sleep in the same bed with my mom or sleep on the floor, So it's like we didn't really have that. And then when we moved, when I was around 9 or 10, we had enough room for another room full of beds. So they put all the boys in one room. So it was four of us boys, real quick, on a two bunk bed. So me and my brother would share a bunk, and then my cousin would be on the top, and my other cousin would sleep on the floor. Four of us, but then he moved, so it wasn't very long. So it was a very quick stay for him. So it was only three of us in that room. So I didn't have my own bed until I was probably 15, 14, 15, somewhere around there. I didn't have my own bed. Um, no, 14. I didn't have my own bed till I was 14 when my mom remarried, because my cousin moved out and my mom remarried. I didn't have my own bed. I shared a bed till I was 14, because we didn't nowhere else. It was either on the bed or the floor. And my mom remarried, and his he was a good guy. My stepdad, he's the reason why I work so hard today. Him and my mom, they're both immigrants. My stepdad literally jumped off a boat. He was a merchant marine, and he came to America. He spoke 5 languages, and he was like, I like this place. I'm going to stay here. They kept his passport, so he was an illegal immigrant. And my stepdad worked his way, grinding, mowing lawns, doing all these things just to get enough money to get by. And then he met my mom. Then he became a U.S. citizen when they married, and then he's just been crushing it ever since. Definitely a good immigrant story. And I know a lot of people like blah blah blah, immigrants this, that. Man, ain't nobody work harder than someone who came from a country who had nothing. That motherfucker literally was walking around barefoot. He was so poor. He didn't have. It was either food or or shoes, or so they picked food every single time. That's where they come from. That's where these people come from. So I definitely don't take any of that for granted, and I aim to work as hard as he does. All right, so but being a 13, 14-year-old boy, you tend to butt heads with your stepdad, and I didn't realize I didn't have a father figure. And growing up, you never realize how much you miss having a dad until you get older, or how much it bugs you. Because through my teens, from 14 all the way to 23, I fought with my stepdad to the fist fights. I remember one time he punched me so hard my ear was bleeding. Don't worry, I wasn't a minor. I was a punk ass 19-year-old talking hella smack. Probably shouldn't have. I had ran away from home. I was drinking when I was 14. Never really did any drugs, but I was drinking since I was 14. And it was just a rebellious thing to do. I was running around a group. My cousins were, some of them were 10 years older than me. Um, and, alcohol was available to me. So I partake and hung out. I did, went to parties when I was 16, 17, and, got drunk. I used to drink so much I would just piss my pants. Oh, it was bad. It was bad. I used to come home, lie to my parents, lie to my mom, things like that. I did a lot of stuff like that. Um, and it was up till everything got kind of a lot worse. It like potentially got worse all the way up till when I was 21. And 21, the day I turned 21, my best friend died. He was my cousin's husband, and I've known him since I was 16, and 16, 15. No, I think I was 15. Oh my god. And he just was there. He was like a big brother to me because my other cousins were kind of like assholes to me, the male cousins. And so he taught me like a lot about being a man. I didn't have a father figure, I didn't have anything like that, nor did he, too. So we were kind of just figuring out. He was just a little bit, you know, strong minded than me. And then he died. He died. He got clipped riding his motorcycle home from work. He had two kids. One was two. The other one was barely like 6 months. I don't think he remembers what his dad looks like. Yeah, he died. He was like 24, and he died just like that. He was a decent guy. He had his drinking issues just like I did. The sad thing is I called him on my birthday. I was buying a keg because growing up he was always the one to buy the alcohol because I was a minor. And so it was my first time being able to buy liquor and beer. Um, so I called him, told him I was ordering a keg, and he's like, "Why?" And I was like, "Because I'm 21." He's like, "But we're going out tonight." I was like, "Yeah, this is for tomorrow." And then he was like, "I don't get it, Naz, but okay." And then 40 minutes later, I get a phone call that he's dead. And that kind of put me in a really bad place after he passed away for a long, long time. A long, long time. Um, and then my grandmother passed away. That was hard, but it was tough. It was tough. Being raised Catholic, I'm a Catholic kid. Most Filipinos are. You do the rosary, you do communion, you do everything. And it put me in a really tough space between me and faith, and it made me very resentful and spiteful person because the way I grew up, how little I had, no dad, never saw my mom, best friend dies, taken away. It just put me in a really bad place, and I started doing more drinking. I started lashing out more. I was just not living up to my potential. I was a deadbeat, man. I was just working jobs here and there. I quit my other job to do something. I was just not in a good space, and you could tell. And there was one point where like 8 months I locked myself in a room. I wouldn't go out. I was just ashamed of myself, shamed thing. I was angry at the world. I was a very angry, spiteful person, and I was resentful. And it took me about 3 years to get out of that. And what pulled me out of that moment of resentment and spite was I was just so depressed. I was so soul crushingly depressed about everything. that I just realized it's like nothing matters. And I wouldn't say I became suicidal or anything, but I got to the point where I was like, this shit sucks. This is miserable. I am fucking miserable. And I don't want to be here anymore. And I'm so depressed. And nothing fucking matters. And all this is just all bullshit. And, I'm sure some of you, if not all, or if not all, you can understand these kind of feelings that you go through. And that's what happened. I was falling into that, and the best way I could depict it, like, was imagine you're standing on a boat, a small boat, in the middle of the water, and it's dark, damn near pitch black, and all you can see is just black. And the waves crash, the water, and then black. And I just felt alone. I just felt alone, and I hated being on that little boat. And then for some reason, something just clicked in my head, and I was just like, you just got to embrace it. And I think what you would call that now, that was almost 12, 13 years ago. 13 years ago, 12, yeah, 12 years ago. I was becoming a nihilist, a resentful nihilist. I was being very nihilistic. I was resentful at the world. And then I just embraced that nothing mattered. I embraced it so hard that everything mattered. I know that it sounds crazy, but I realized that when when you realize that nothing actually truly matters and you die and anything can be taken away from you, and I actually became a atheist at this point too, because I couldn't trust what was told about God. And you realize that nothing truly absolutely matters and you're just gonna die like Matt died, and even your father will leave, and your grandmother will die too, and all this, so everything does not matter. Everything doesn't matter. You just get to the point, if you can stave off from killing yourself, essentially, you can get to a point where you realize that nothing does matter, and then everything matters, because it's a weird, I don't, because you're so you are so, or I felt I was so minuscule, and um I don't know how to put it, but I felt so insignificant, and my life was insignificant, all that, and I was just like, it is, and it will be, and it forever will be. I'm just a small speck on a small speck of the universe. It's my time is uh, uh, a small blimp in the existence of the universe, and I realized that, and I was like, fuck, life is truly meaningless, so I have to make some meaning out of it. I have to make it meaningful for me. And I learned that through my depression. I just fucking embraced it. I was like, I'm depressed, this shit sucks, nothing matters, but I'm gonna make this ride a hell of a ride. And it just clicked in me. I don't know what happened, and I embraced it. I embraced how I was feeling, and I was like, it is what it is, and I'm gonna die one day, and I'm just gonna make the best of it. And I got a good job. Then I started switching careers. I started dating again. I didn't tell you, I was had a girlfriend when through my depression. I was just like letting all of my resentment out on her, and I feel so bad for. I feel so bad thinking about it, because I took it out on a lot of people, including my parents and whoever was with me at the time. And then once I all clicked, everything started moving. Everything started moving. I started getting more into fitness. I was already into fitness, but I got more into fitness and things like that. And then I became a coach for a while. I've been a coach for a decade. Yeah, a decade now. And, you know, I've always had these like I always like to do things. I like to stay moving. I like to stay productive. And funny thing is that time when I just locked myself, it was almost a year in my room. I was the least productive person. I literally just watched anime and played Farming Simulator all day. That's all I did. Um, but yeah. And then I met my wife, and I had still kept on drinking quite a bit, and a lot. I was still drinking a lot. I haven't quit drinking, by the way, but I still kept drinking a lot, and a lot of those old tendencies of resentfulness and anger and things like that always came out when I drank. It always came out. When I drank too much, it was like I was Doctor High, Jackal or High. Because the moment I got drunk, I would start lashing out because I'm very passive aggressive, and I think that comes a lot from my mom because she was a passive. Asian people are passive aggressive. Parents, especially if they're from the homeland, they're passive aggressive. I don't know what it is about it, but every single one of my aunts and uncles and they're all passive aggressive people, and you bleed that into your children. So I became very passive aggressive, meaning if there was a problem, I wouldn't say shit. And then when I got drunk, I said all the shit, and it was bad. It was bad, y'all. It was so bad that my wife threatened to divorce me several times, and luckily, she didn't. She had faith in me that I could change, and it took a while. It took a while to get that under control. It took a long, long while, and I only really got it under control more recently, like within the last 2 years. But it was tough, and I realized at that point what was coming from was a lot was from I did too much. I didn't want people to leave me. I did so much that I would hold my tongue when people said, or especially who I was with at the time, I would hold my tongue, not to say anything because I didn't want to upset them, and I'd hold things in because I didn't want to upset them because I was so scared that they would leave me. Just like my dad did. And I realized I had this weird abandonment issue that I didn't realize until a couple years ago that I had, and it all stemmed from I was so worried about my dad leaving. It messed me up so much that I was just like, okay, I won't say anything. But what happens when you drink? You say everything. And it just fucking exploded every single time. And I could not get it in control until I realized I had abandonment issues. And I was like, fuck, I gotta learn to communicate things better. So that took more time. That took more time, but it's doable if you just put the effort. If you put the effort and you just keep trying, you try to be better than you were yesterday, you can do it. You can do it, and I did it. But kind of going on that time shot, I know I'm jumping around a lot. Just going where my mind takes me. Um, COVID happened, and while COVID happened, one of my oldest friends passed away. He was my age now, 36. He got cancer and he died, and it broke me again. It was so hard. It wasn't. I wouldn't. I don't compare miseries. I don't think it's fair. I just don't think it's fair to compare miseries, especially other people's miseries. But it was hard, mainly because I known him since I was 13. He was my drinking buddy. He was my barber, and if you see my hair, like my hair's growing out now. There's this weird reluctance to get a new barber right now, and it's stupid. I should just get a new barber, but I keep floating in and out. It's just I think about him a lot, and I miss him. And one of the reasons why I miss him so much was because he had so much potential, and he worked so hard. He was another guy like me. Parents both immigrants. Dad left, and he was successful. Enough. He worked two jobs. He had He worked as a barber and he did CNA at night, and that's taking care of old people. So he was working hard to wiping old people's asses. Come on, y'all. He was working hard and cutting hair, and he didn't need the two jobs, but he chose to do two jobs because he was taking care of not only his mom, his sister, and his grandmother. And then when he fucking passed away, it broke my fucking heart because again, I was then again someone that's fucking decent person, who got a shit life again, and then I got angry again. Kind of went down another spiral. Kind of relapse in my not lashing out when I'm drunk. It just hurt a lot. And then, well, I've been praying, I've been checking where I'm at, and then luckily I had my wife to support me through that, and my friends, and it's still hard, and I still get emotional about it today. Um, and that's what happened. That's it. It was hard. Life is hard, y'all, and then you die. So moving forward, mid COVID, I think it was probably a year after Jeffrey passed away. Um, my wife got pregnant. We had been trying not too long, 6 months. We had some complications, but nothing serious. Um, kind of the things that they find when they start looking, like we should fix this first, this and that. So nothing too serious. And then she's pregnant. It's gonna be a girl. Honestly, I was so worried about having a girl because I'm so worried about the world for girls because it's hard out there being a girl. You feel weak. You feel defenseless. The world may take advantage of you. You bleed for half your life. You have to carry kids, and you got to worry about men at the same time. It's tough being a woman. It's hard. But I was so excited, y'all. Super excited. I wanted a little girl so bad. And then at 24 weeks, we found out she had some issues. She had some type of genetic disease that no one knew what it was. She was born premature. I believe she was 27 weeks. She was born 28 weeks. And you have four heart valves, and three of them were leaking. She made it 4 weeks in the NICU. She passed away in her mother's arms as I watched her take her last breath. Her name was Layla, and that was probably the hardest moment of my entire life. And it wasn't necessarily watching my daughter die. That she's gone and I miss her, but watching her mom go through it broke me. It broke me. And that was the hardest moment in my life to watch her do that. Yes, I miss my daughter, but to watch my wife, the one that's got my back for so long, to go through so much pain, it's the hardest thing I've ever seen, dealt with, you know? And I came from a broken family. I remember my oldest memory is my dad leaving me, my mom crying, just crying. And I was helpless then. I couldn't do anything. And then when my daughter died, I felt the same way. I could not help her mom. And that's fucking rough. That is sad. That is real some sad stuff. Like you can't you could write worse things. It's just sad. It's so sad. And I'm not doing or saying any of this stuff to make anyone feel sorry or sad for me or anything like that. That's life, y'all. I want you guys to know that that's life. This shit happens. It happens and it happens all the time. And I'm not the first, and no, I won't be the last. But I just want you to know that I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm dealing with it. I'm okay. I'm happier than I've ever been. I'm okay. I embrace that I'm gonna die. I know I'm gonna die. It's inevitable. It's inevitable. And everyone you care about is gonna die. Everyone you love is gonna die. And it's not about how much I've lost already, but the fact is, you gotta understand they are gonna die. And it's whether or not you outlive them. So make every moment count the best you can. Live a life filled with fulfillment. Live a life that you can be proud of. Take care of each other. Life's tough. Life is tough, but if you keep trying, you can get through it. You don't give up. Just don't give up. That's all I got to say. But life is, for me, like I said, I'm happy. I'm very happy. I'm very, very happy now. My wife's pregnant again. It's a boy this time. Everything seems okay. There's no issues. We have a slight hiccup in the beginning. And I'm excited to be a dad again. I'm so excited. And I can't wait. And I just, in a selfish way, I'm just gonna like kind of end this thing. And this is kind of how my mind works, right? So you guys can kind of understand. I play this game in my head all the time about the saddest thing that I can imagine because I feel like there's resilience in being more resilient makes makes life easier. Like so I take cold showers, I work out hard, I beat up not only my physical body, but I beat up my mind so I stay strong. I stay strong because guess what? You're gonna get punched in the face. It's gonna happen. So the stronger you are, the more of a hit you could take, a larger hit you could take. You gotta become resilient. You have to become resilient, both mentally, physically, spiritually. Resilient. You have to be because life will kick you in your mouth. So I play this game in my head what is the saddest thing I can think of? What is the saddest thing? And obviously, it's going to be different for everybody else. But me is me dying. This is the saddest thing I can think of. And I feel good about it now. And I'll tell you why I feel better, not good, better about it. Is me dying before my wife. Meaning that I'm laying in my deathbed and I have to tell her that she's going to be okay without me. And knowing that I can't help her, protect her, take care of her anymore breaks my heart. It really, it makes me so fucking sad. It like brings me to the verge of tears just thinking about that. And I feel better about it now is because I'm gonna have a son. And that little mother better take care of his mom. And I'm gonna raise him to the point that if I outlive his mother, and I better outlive him. He better outlive me. That I feel at ease now, knowing that I can die, and then someone will take care of her. It makes me happy to think that because I do feel like one thing that's given me a lot of purpose in my later years is knowing that I am a man and a part of a man is responsibilities and the responsibilities is his wife, his kids, his family, in that order, and then friends. That's your responsibility. And you got to do everything you can to take care of them because that's your duty. That's what we've done since for eons. We've done that forever. And I'm just hopeful that I can raise my son to be a man who takes care of his family, takes care of his mom. But yeah, I don't know where I'm going with this. Guys, this is episode 1 of Papi Rants. This is just my backstory, kind of who I am, where I'm from. I guess I should kind of finish this out by saying, yeah, I'm a buff geek who loves tattoos, who drinks way more than he should. I geek out on everything. I love self help stuff. I love trying to help people when I can. I love making things. I like doing all these things because I, just, the best way I could put it is I'm a person who likes to learn about things that interest me. And when I learn about things, I get really into it. Um, and I guess what Poppy Rants is going to be about is about things I'm interested in that I find curious, and I'm just going to spend time talking to this camera and hopefully you guys like it. I do want to bring on people onto the show. And I think it's gonna be fun. I think it's gonna be fun. I'm excited about it, but I really wanted you guys kind of to know my backstory, where I'm coming from, um, and hopefully, you know, what I tell you, what you heard helps you, makes you feel like you're not alone, and that there is hope, and and don't quit. You know, don't quit. That's it. Don't quit. Life is hard. Get stronger physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. Get strong, yo, because life will punch you in the mouth. My name is DIY Papi, but everyone just calls me Nas. I don't know. I might switch my name. But other than that, guys, I'll catch you on the next one. My nose has been running this whole time. It's disgusting, and I am sorry.